Welcome back to another Commercial Trucking Chronicles. I'm your boy Swizzy. I'm back with another video, Commercial Trucking Chronicle for you. You're going to want to stay tuned. I'm bringing information to all you guys that in the crypto space. Check this out. Let me go. Okay, so we all know about the SEC, right? Security and Exchange Commission. And in case you haven't heard, Operation Choke 2.0, where they were attacking a lot of the, a lot of developers were, falsely charged or had lawsuits filed against them. And because a lot of them were maybe startup companies that didn't have the money to fight the case, um, to fight the SEC in court. So, you don't want to make the Security and Exchange Commission mad. So, of course, a lot of them guys, they just folded up their businesses or they moved out of the country and took their business. They wanted to, really continue to develop and research. They moved out the country and took their took innovation, which is what this space is like. This technology as it evolves, it's it's like AI's next frontiers. This is innovation. This is growth. This is the future of things to come. Future of banking. Future, you name it. Storing information. And so the SEC kind of regulates certain markets. The CFTC also regulates because a lot of these assets and a lot of these projects have to do with banking services or improving banking service or improving any kind of messaging service or improving some kind of, data server, hardwares, all those little parts, all those little moving parts that help keep an economy or help keep, business, smart contracts and stuff like that. All the little moving parts that need to be upgraded. The SEC, those things are regulated. Those things have to be regulated to protect you, the investor, and then institutions as well, who might come in and, of course, make some money into a startup. Venezuela, what's going on? How you doing? That you've come in, hit that like button for me if you don't mind. I'm doing well. Hope you are. Thank you. And so the news just broke. The news is just broke, and we know, Lion Santiago, how you doing? We know how corrupt the government can be. You know what I'm saying? Well, people within the government, basically. There's good people in the government. Then you got people within the government that they just they get bought out. They'll sell their seat, they'll sell their voice. You know what I'm saying? So, when you have certain people that are certain board members or legislators, that's how the insider trading and all that stuff goes. Lion Santiago, how you doing? How a lot of insider trading, which is supposed to be illegal, that happens because these people, they sit on these panels, right? And they can bring lawsuits against, up and coming companies that might compete with somebody who's otherwise funding them, right? If they're getting funded or kickbacks or what the case may be from, from Tesla, like, and then here comes another startup company that has some of, similar to the Tesla, or can improve on some of what they're doing, that's when, kind of get to, yeah, yeah, okay, yeah, shut it down. Or, bring some kind of a, put some roadblocks in the way of growth, right? So that's what the SEC was doing. A lot of Silicon Valley, investors or startup companies and so forth and so on. But now we want to go back to when they had the big GameStop and Wall Street. It was Wall Street Bets, I think, when they had a squeeze, and then these stocks and things just shot up, shot up. Hey, we got 19 people here. How about you guys give me a like? I appreciate you guys for coming in. Right now, I'm just kind of trying to, bring this information to you. There's a bunch of synthetic shares that were sold on the markets. And I was saying the other day, man, everything seems fake. Everything fake out here now. Synthetic everything. And I was talking about synthetic, everything from synthetic hair to synthetic stocks. This is real hair, by the way. Thank you. I'm sorry. Thank you for that like. But so over on Wall Street, they were selling synthetic shares of some stocks. And I guess this thing kind of got, whistleblower. There's always a whistleblower, right? Somebody blew the whistle, which is a good thing that did. You know what I'm saying? Because, when you in a position where saying, I don't know whether it was somebody on Wall Street, probably not, they're greedy, but over at the SEC, the Security Exchange Commission, who kind of oversees, trade and commodities, right? So I'm gonna clip real quick, and you can determine on your own what this is all about, right? Okay. Recent discussions have highlighted collusions between the SEC and Wall Street. They ain't playing fair, insider trading, particularly regarding the SEC's handling of certain cases. One report claims that the SEC was caught colluding with Wall Street, suggesting a lack of transparency in its operations. Other sources discuss the SEC's involvement in the CEO prosecutions, indicating potential conflict of interest. Additionally, there are allegations that the SEC misled the public about its actions and cases, raising concerns about its integrity. These discussions reflect ongoing scrutiny of the SEC's relationship with Wall Street and the implications of regulatory oversight. So I'll say this right now. If the people who are supposed to be overseeing these markets to make sure that you and I are not being robbed are corrupt, you mean you turn a blind eye to the corruption? You gotta be getting some kickback. And they say that this was all done under Gary Gensler's, the chair of the SEC. Donald Trump and them stepped down, they got rid of him. He's been replaced. But the new SEC has not been, I don't think that the new SEC chair has been, he's been seated yet. I don't think so. I think they did announce who he's gonna be. But now, the SEC has got a big stain all over them because of the handling in the Ripple, XRP in the Ripple case, right? Where they said that Ripple was selling unregistered securities on the open market. But then the judge ruled that XRP is not a security in of itself. So there was no sale. Let me rephrase that. Okay, the judge clearly stated that early early sales of XRP to institutions is not considered a sale of a security. And then that's when they, just had a whole big lawsuit that went for years on end, to come to an agreement. Like, there was no, okay, the case was won. There was basically, one part of the plaintiff, the SEC, and the defendant was the creators of the technology. Like, basically, so you can understand, it's like, well, Ripple Labs or XRP was created out in, let's say, Silicon Valley. All right. So because, it was a disruptive technology, and it would kind of help innovation, and it would, overturn some of the old traditional, way of messaging and sending and money transaction, money remittances. It's a banker's coin. All right. It's a banker's coin. That brought a lot of attention to the SEC, negative attention, because that lawsuit went on for several years. I know I was a part of it, basically, because at some point there was the assets, and I still am in possession of them. I couldn't even touch my investments, for a period of time. And then, they got past it, and they, fast forward till today. So the SEC, they lost that case. However, they're still out here overseeing everything, trying to, come down on developers and stuff like that, until they only got rid of the head of the chairman of the SEC, who was subpoenaed by Congress to come in and sit and talk. Describe what is the security? He couldn't, but yet and still, you're telling this company that they're selling securities. You can't give an explanation of what a security is when asked what is security. So they finally got rid of him. He was the head of the SEC. He was the chairman. But during his administration, he was colluding the whole time with Wall Street. What is that app that they use? WhatsApp. Because it's encrypted, so they did get those messages. Because when you go on WhatsApp, I guess you're able to hide your identity over there. Pakistan, okay, how you doing? I appreciate you. Appreciate you guys in Pakistan for watching, man. I'm gonna have a couple questions for you about things in a minute. Let me finish making them quick with this SEC collusion, the collusion with Wall Street. A lot of all of this stuff is coming out, but I'm sure they had this information for a while now, because, since they passed the Genius Act, the Transparency Act. See, where was all these things before? They were fighting the innovation that would allow transparency. That's what the chair of the SEC doing, because if like I know, blockchain technology, there's just one source. It's transparency. You're not making any side deals and no side bets or none of that stuff, because the blockchain, you can see all transactions. And then once that technology came along, it was attacked by the SEC. Yeah. And they were not, of course, I said it myself. I said, the only reason they're attacking these people, these developers, is because they've come up with something that's not only, better, faster, cheaper, transparent, can move money faster. You get your settlement, your remittance settlements, because the old bank system, how the money was, anytime you send money somewhere, they charge you to, then it won't all show up, or only a portion of it'll show up. So these guys come up with technology that can move money just like you send a text message. It's all there as soon as it comes through. Push the button, bing, it's there. That's the tech, right? Well, they attacked it. They try to put lawsuits against it. And so they're trying to suppress growth. Fast forward, now that we know XRP is not a security, now that there's no, legal no legal courts that are restricting the sale, use, trade, or purchase of these assets, because at one time there were any sales, and SEC says we demand that you cease the trade, the use, the sale, and the transfer, because they knew it was going to shine a light on what they were doing. They were colluding with Wall Street. Wall Street was okay. Wall Street and the crypto market, two different assets, right? Cryptocurrency, they say, oh, it's made out of thin air. Well, Wall Street created synthetic stocks out of thin air. They were stuff they didn't even have. They didn't even have. It's like, oh, all we got is 1,000 tickets. We'll make 10,000. Make another 1,000. So much money selling synthetic shares. And that's why I say a lot of times, that's why you want to have, I urge people to self-custody. I do self-custody. I use a Tangent wallet. Even though you say, oh, well, it's crypto, it's not, it's in thin air, it's on a messaging system. It's a representation. So the representation of it being in my wallet is, okay, I have 1 for 1, 2, or 3, but for every 1 for 1, they may be worth $100. So the representation of that asset I hold, I'm holding on to it, but this is not something synthetic. This is an actual asset, it's encrypted asset. It's encryption. It's the same way, use that same technology to kind of, if you can't break the code, you can't find out, the message. It's a messaging system, but Sending is a messaging system too, because your direct deposit, there's going to be told how many hours worked. Okay, there's a message that needs to go over there. 30 hours. Once that goes, the representation of 30 hours shows up in your account. You see how that works? So the same messaging system that's like, oh, well, we got 50 shares of, and they're selling it. They're selling it on Wall Street, 50 shares of a certain stock. There's only 50 shares in existence. Well, now it seems like there's 1,000 shares. At least they took in enough money. That's where they caught. They took in money as 1,000 shares. How can that be possible? Because they sold synthetic shares into the market. Now, people are holding on to them, right? And trying to give the same way I'm holding on to crypto. But then they're like, but it's like, I can't sell this. Why? Because by the time you go in to sell, in the books, it's only 10 here. It's only 10 here on the books. This particular stock, only 10 in circulation. There's only 10 in existence. All them thousands and all that other money that's people that they collected, they collected them because they sold synthetic stock to the people. Those shares do not even exist. And this is how they were caught. It's just crazy. So now the Clarity Act, ask yourself about clarity. We need clarity, right? The Clarity Act goes into effect in 2 days. They already had the Genius Act. Ask yourself, why did they pass the Genius Act? Because this is genius. This is only a genius could come up with something like this. I'm saying. So I just watched I watched a whole nother video. I'm telling you about this digital space, man. This money out of thin air. I mean, there should be no homelessness. There should be no hunger. There should be no, people's salaries need to be reflected for what the type of work they do, right? Give these people a raise, right? Because this free money. I can right now. I got me some green, some good tea. Right now, I can go pull it up. Let me pull it up. Let me pull it up. And I already knew it. I created NFT myself, non-fungible token. Everything's going to go tokenized. The blockchain, the markets are going to be stock markets, everything. All of this stuff is getting ready. They're going to tokenize everything. They're going to tokenize real estate. They're going to tokenize gold. It's going to be a representation on the screen of everything. So you can have fractional reserve. You can sell fractions of your, your assets. Your home gets tokenized. You want to sell a percentage of it, you sell a percentage of it. That way you can get some money. It's better than borrowing money and taking out a loan. There's a lot that they can do with this technology that's going to advance, it's an overhaul of the financial system. I don't know, you guys are not hearing that? That's happening. That's really seriously happening. And once this Genius Act goes into effect, once this Clarity to effect, and the new chair, if he's not seated yet, I think they did sit him in there already. I'm pretty sure he did. I don't know. I gotta follow up on that because I kind of left a lot of this information and stuff alone. I wasn't really bothering with it because I didn't continue to, every day just kind of pound the concrete just because, I got some skin in the game. I would just wait for the day that I check and see or I hear, hey, it blew up. It's just like, I was an early investor. I'm waiting for those numbers to, I'm waiting for those numbers to actually reveal themselves. And then you got all these people saying, oh, this is where it's going to go. This is what it's going to be at, so forth and so on. And part of that, it can be true, but, it does take the adoption phase. How many banks are using it? Pretty much a lot of banks, foreign banks in other countries and other nations, they're using it. Of course, I can go all into how they may be using it to trade in other currencies, whereas they have to use fiat or the petrodollar, and they want to. There's all of that because they are trying to get away from using the petrodollar. So we have a lot going on right now behind the petrodollar and a lot of other things. So, yep. I stayed tuned to it, but I tried to zone out for a minute because I did not want to continue. I had a lot of things going on. I still have a lot of things going on. I'm very grateful for all of you guys that have been supporting me, supporting this channel. All your likes, all your comments, all your prayers and everything. I really appreciate that stuff. You don't know how much it makes a big difference to me. So, I'm trying to not give too much of, my energy and time to, I'm not a regulator, with these markets. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not watching it to regulate it. I kind of watch it to stay informed. But I know that there's still some time before, some, regulations, things like that are passed through Congress. So that until you hear of something like that, it really makes there is price movement, but there really is not type of price movement that I'm looking for. Once institutional investors get the type of regulations that they are waiting for, which is going to protect them, in these investments, that's when, there's going to be big inflows of money, and then the price will move pretty handsomely at that point. Wait when that happens. But when stuff like this kind of blows up, it gets everybody's attention in the community that has, any investment in these markets. And this is behind a stock, and I'm going to try to see if I can find out which particular which particular stock was sold. XRP explosion. Whale wallet surged 200% as institutions dump Bitcoin for this SEC proof token. SEC proof token. Okay. SEC proof token. So XRP is we're SEC proof. That's what they're saying. Like, we ain't got to worry about the SEC. Okay. Forget retail traders. Real money is flooding into XRP from Goldman Sachs network, while whale wallets just absorbed 14.2 billion tokens in 14 days during the correction. As you know, the price is just correct. Everything kind of like, it was going all the way up, and then next thing you know, and then that coin been doing that for years. Anybody that knows it, look at it and be like, man, we just can't get past 50 cents. We can't get past 30 cents. You know what I'm saying? Then next, blows up to $3 or something. And this is what's expected to happen. There's a shortage of supply. Ain't gonna be no synthetic nothing. So there's a shortage of supply, and when there's a price squeeze, when there's a supply crunch, that's when you get the price explosion. Okay. Okay, we reveal why institutions call XRP the digital reserve asset, and when ETF filings drop. So, that's what this site here, I can read a little bit more. Okay, XRP is not merely surviving, but thriving in a competitive cryptocurrency landscape. Meticulously carving out a formidable niche. Formidable niche that has captured the discerning gaze of Wall Street. Okay, this barging recognition is from coincidental. Indeed, it marks a strategic triumph, according to Steve McGlure, CEO of Canary Capital. XRP now stands as recognized cryptocurrency amongst traditional finance powerhouses, trailing only the universally acknowledged Bitcoin. So everybody knows about Bitcoin. They say this is the next Bitcoin. So I would say this is not financial advice, but I would say you need to get you some of this, accumulate as much as you can, as much as you can. And if we told, I'll pull a calculator and look at the current price. Like, it's not cheap no more. I remember buying, 5 for $1. So that's roughly 20 cents. Okay. So I accumulated just about all that I was going to accumulate back then. Still holding. I'm still holding, right? Because, there's a lot of things that, over my, I gave my time to, my energy to, and some money to, and, I'm not saying failed investments, but they were, they have kind of matured to, I think, just as much as they're going to make me, one thing I say, like, if you hold on to certain things, like, okay, if I cut grass every day, not every day, but if I lived in Florida, I could. If I made an initial investment in a lawn for $500, bought a nice lawnmower, and I cut grass every day, and I got, even just one lawn a day or 2 lawns a day, and I got $30 each. That's $60 a day. Times that by 365 days, so that brings to about roughly $600. So say I bought a lawnmower for $600, it would pay for itself in the first year. Every year after that's profit, and the grass don't stop. So some investments that I've made have been very good. You got to keep and maintain some things. But I use that example to count, like when you have certain investments, some of them they cap, they peak out. They're, like a lawn business. Like the grass just keeps growing. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, I've gone into other types of things. It says there's plenty of people out here that have some homeowners and want to remodel their house. So say I start a home remodeling business and stuff like that, right? That would be something I can pretty much bank on. Like, hey, yeah, man, I should be still making money from this company I just started in a few years and stuff. But then you run on, everybody runs on rough times. People start losing their houses. If you don't have those type of clients, you know, work could slow down, and then it can pick up, right? So sometimes they cap out. You might have good years and some bad years with those investments. Like buying into the, have all the stuff you need to be able to do do whatever job comes your way. So. And in the same way, if I was a dog groomer, right, and I groom people's dogs, and then if my customers moved away, then I probably would have to try to find customers. But how great would the business be going, right? So some businesses and some investments, they do better than others over the long term, and some of them they coast right along, and you good, you keep on, as long as you open for business, you're making money, and that's much like the food business, right? So when it comes to these assets, as long as you hold them, the upside, right? The upside that it can really present to itself. Sometimes it's really misleading because you're like, this thing ain't doing. Then boom, it pops. Now you reconsider holding, or getting rid of it. Or you might be like, yeah, finally, give me my money. I want to get out of this thing. I've been holding it for 5, 10 years. You know what I'm saying? 6, 7 years. Long-term investment. Well, if you bought in at a good time and then, you hold through, a season or two, you might just see, your ROI and stuff like that. So you might see a big return on your investment. And it could set you up pretty good. Now, I know that a lot of people like to have their portfolios because they live off, a lot of, diversify. You want to have all of this, the richest man in Babylon, basically, right? You want to be set up, pretty well diverse so that, your money's making you money. I'm not trying to be the richest man in Babylon. I'm not trying to kind of, I mean, I would like to think, of a type of strategy to be able to know, how to get through some of the ups and downs that might come, whether it's here, there, or in Babylon. But the Bible did say that, there was, I think it said there's businesses thriving over there, what I'm saying, with everything else that was going on, you know what I'm saying? But you gotta know when to get in and get out of these things, right? Some of these new coins and stuff like that, like like I said, I created a meme coin, or I created an NFT. We're gonna tokenize soon. We're gonna tokenize every stock, everything, all of it. Your TV, smartphone, your computer, anything of value will be tokenized. Your cars, paintings, music, And so, do we have to hold on to these things and never let them go because they produce us like a return on our investment? Or is there some point in time where we're like, you know what, I'm good. I could just, kind of sell off all these assets and take that money and live the rest of my life. But you got to think about it, a little bit more in depth. Like, one of the assets you probably will still need, would be, an income producing asset rather than it being an asset that is going to require you to keep paying into it, right? Once you bought it, you own it, and it should be producing you some money by the upside or the appreciation of the asset. So we talk about the estate market now. So you don't want to sell that because then you're out in the cold. So there's just a lot of different things to kind of really kind of look, take a deep look, take a, look at it through a different lens in terms of, I know a lot of people are, they get to a certain age and like, I'm living off these assets. This is where my retirement money went all these years, right? And so now that I'm in retirement, I'm not just going to sell them. I'm going to hang on to them. I'm going to sell some and, hold on to the rest because it's still upside to it. Potential, anyway, and upside potential. And shout out to these guys, man. Shout out to them, man. Taking care of me, man. You know what I'm saying? When I was in the hospital. There you go. UNC. Shout out to them, man. But I'm pretty sure that Clarity Act is going to clarity. You talking about transparency? Somebody getting ready to be indicted. I don't think they're playing games with people doing fraud no more, because fraud is got this whole country going crazy, man. And it's crazy because you don't know who's fraud, who's who. Everybody trying to be the right. Us working citizens, we do the right thing. A lot of us, we make our money, work. We're trying to invest it into these markets, whether we buy shares of Apple or shares of Nvidia. We might try to get in on some oil. We might try to get, you're just doing something to, anybody that's financially, literate and, responsible with their money, they're pretty much trying to invest it so that the outcome will be a better lifestyle and, not having to struggle so much. You know what I'm saying? But the sad part is when you don't know who's frauding you. You know what I'm saying? That's sad because you're being frauded, but you think you're dealing with, a household name. You over on the stock market trying to buy some shares, on through one of these firms or people that I don't name nobody's name and try to make them seem like they the fraudulent ones, but the guys, the names of the companies, man. You might open up a TD Ameritrade account, which there's no longer a TD Ameritrade account, but I used to use TD Ameritrade because I banked at TD Bank. Well, they got bought out by Charles Schwab. So now any dealings, they have everything that whatever I had over there, Charles Schwab has it. So I had to go over to Charles Schwab and open up an account. I got their email, and they basically have control of they have those assets on management that was over at TD Ameritrade. But I would hate to go over to Charles Schwab and then find out that they're doing something crooked or whatever the case is. I would hate to find that out after I felt like I was with a tier one investment firm or something. You know what I'm saying? That's like me saying, oh, well, I use JP Morgan Chase Bank, and their services. Or I'm using Fidelity, with my retirement. Then find out that, they colluding with whatever the assets that my funds are invested in. They're colluding with so that they could be trying to, get over on me, the investor. So it just makes it very hard to trust anyone because there's not that transparency. We can't really put our finger on it until there's a whistleblower. Well, this new technology, this is why they're all scared and afraid of it, and this is why they try to suppress it. They did not want it to come to fruition. It's here. They have to reckon with it. It's just like AI. And we're going to see some big changes and a lot of announcements coming out of who's doing what. They're able to find all the money. They're able to see where it's all been rerouted when it's supposed to be going. They're able to see all of it as they put more and more and more of their systems on chain. Once their systems come on chain, boom, like, hey, what's going on with this? And no longer are they able to hide the truth from the American people about the fraud. They can't do it. AI and blockchain exposes all of that, all of it. You know what I'm saying? So you got to get yourself educated on what's going on with the financial system. And just like he said, like President Donald Trump out there said, this administration is restructuring the financial banking system. And whether they like it or not, he's making sure it gets done. It's about time. It's about time. You know why? You ask them people, when these CEOs of these companies, they get subpoenaed in front of Congress. They the head of Allstate. I was watching something the other day where they were talking about how those people were, they were told to have their claims department like information out and press and suppress what the claims were worth for a lot of people property damages. And any insurance claims offices, they don't want to pay you anything. You got a claim in against them, they're trying to give you the bare minimum. They're not trying to pay you what the claim is worth. So you ask those executive people what their salaries are. How much did you get bonuses last year working for this company that's frauding everybody? Man, these people were getting hundreds of millions of dollars. 40 million, 35 million is my salary for a year, 50 million. But you won't even pay this person out. You're trying to lower the payout of someone's claim. That's diabolical, man. That's diabolical. So now with this new, telling you, Transparency Act, the Clarity Act, the Genius Act, man, these guys all know this, and that's why they're all committing as much fraud as they could possibly do right now, and they're trying to run for the hills. They're all trying to run for the hills. Some of them still trying. They foolish because they're going to all getting indicted. They're foolish for standing up and still trying to be in face and present themselves as if they're for the people. But once you find out how much they really making, see, they won't tell you that. They'll never do that. Oh, well, my salary is 30 million. They're gonna look at you like, what? You got 30 mil a year? And you've been working there for how many years? These are billionaires, man. These people are billionaires. And all they know is greed. And sadly, they don't want to give us what's due to us, but it's gonna come to us, right? And when I tell you it's gonna be one of them happy days, I'm talking about y'all gonna be like, yo, he was right. Because there's so much money that can be made. If they can create, just like the printing machine, they're gonna turn it on. They're gonna start printing money. Boy, they know. Print, turn on that printer, that money machine. You see how they used to always do it back in the day? They had a gun. People thought that was, man, it's coming back times 2, times 10, basically. It's gonna be just like, and you're gonna see the room just get filled up where it's going, oh, that's how much money they're gonna create. That's how much money they're getting ready to create. All right? These are in the works right now. Big stuff. Just gotta hold on nation, and give them time, give this administration time to kind of do, all they're going after all of it. They know they have to. There's no way, sorry guys, the old system is done. There's a lot of people that are fighting and putting up a lot of resistance to what's happening, what this administration is doing. There's a lot of people resisting it, but I'm sorry, I'm here to tell you, it has to be done. because if not, it's just fraud. And just when you really see the real numbers, you're gonna be like, they've been frauding us like that. Yeah, no wonder. Why you think everybody broke? They taking all the money, man. They're taking it all. Trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions. We don't even know what that a small fraction of that could do for our life if they start giving us back the money that they owe us. A small fraction of what they have taken from us, what it could do for our lives, each and every one of us. Because nobody wants to, give them, like the credit or get, kind of like stand. I know you don't want to stand up with them because there's things that they took from us, but it seems like they frauded us. But it's not that they frauded us. They shut down systems that are being ran by fraudsters, only to wreck the system so that it's all going to be a transparent one. Now you can't come in with that fraud. That's what's happening. That's what's happening. Now, there's somebody going to try to be slick. They're genius. These are genius. She's like, that was the most smartest thing I ever thought. He's a smart guy. Watch him. Right? They said that the Somalians was sending billions and billions of dollars. It's hard to send cash. They were sending cash and large amounts of it. It's so hard for that to happen without it being seized at customs. They were putting it inside of ATM machines and shipping the ATM machines full of money back overseas, U.S. dollars. And this is money they fraudulently, stole from the American people. So I'm gonna let you know as soon as I know what's going on. Do me a favor, the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed to the channel. Leave me a comment. It's draining, I know it is. I really, and this is Elevation Church, by the way. I went to Elevation Church with my daughter, and we're trying to elevate, man. We're trying to elevate. They gave me this shirt for coming there as a guest. We're trying to elevate, man. I'm trying to help everybody to, I'm trying to help everybody, man, to rise up a little bit with the knowledge that we have, man. Might be something that can help you, man. I'm Lord willing, I got a lot, whatever God plan is for me this year. I know there's a lot of things that I have been, trying to revisit, you know what I'm saying? Business ventures, looking for property and stuff. I mean, I just left a lot alone because it was like, this ain't the time, man. This ain't the time. Things are, it's too hard to get money, or the interest rates are way too high. I'm not trying to get out a loan and pay. I've already been a victim of predatory lending, you know what I'm saying, with business loans, and more than one of them. And I'm gonna tell you, they're tough to pay back because they want so much back. So I ain't trying to borrow no money. I was so happy to pay back the loan that I was like, you know what? I'll never do that again. And then I turned back around and did it again. But there's just a lot of up and coming changes that are going to shock people. So be ready for that. Be ready for that, because what they're doing right now in the next couple of months, you're gonna, when they spend that money printing machine back on, like, you know what I'm saying? During the pandemic, where you think they got all that money that they was giving to stimulate the economy, right? Printed that money, and everybody had money. Everybody had all kinds of money. You had more money than you could knew what to do with. People going out buying all these daggone big TVs, and they're like, but do you really need a TV? You know what I'm saying? Like, so you gotta have a plan. You gotta have a plan. You gotta be financially, and smart, literate, know how to turn that money, make it go to work for you. Because sure enough, it's gonna get everything's gonna get expensive. So you don't want to go and once they print that money and give you a nice little handful of it, well, when you go out there to do your retail shopping or buying or whatever you want to buy, whether it's a property, whether it's a car, whether you want to buy, start a business, you want to, it's going to be a lot. You got tires that you have to buy. Your tires are going to go up. Everything's going to freaking go up. You better believe it. So look at your money as your opportunity and find assets that you can use that money, and invest the money. All right. Look at that money when it comes to as being your opportunity. This is your chance. Okay. And that's like kind of just that should be the ground rules that you start, kind of wanting to, you want to play. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm playing by a different set of rules this year. If I come into some money, I'm not going out popping off and bling blinging. I'm gonna try and find a solid investment. Take that money and put some of it into there. You know what I'm saying? You don't gotta put it up, but don't let the money come into your hands once they start printing and giving all these checks out. Don't take that money and go out and be trying to go get no eyelashes or trying to get, I braided my hair myself, literally. I braid my hair. I did this myself. I'm not saying don't go out and take care of yourself, you know what I mean? But there's certain things that, eyelashes, do you really need that, right? I don't know. I mean, it depends. Do something nice for yourself. I would say that. But the best thing you could do is invest that money in your, in your future, so you have a piece of, you know what I'm saying? So that's about all I have for you guys right now, man. I'm just gonna wrap this thing up. I appreciate you watching, and if you have any questions, leave it in the comments. All right, I'm your boy Sweet. Appreciate you guys for watching. Wasn't able to. You can go and check everything that I just spoke about. Go Google it. See, did the SEC get caught? And this is news. This is all just came out today. Now, it says that we're entering into a super cycle, right? We're getting ready to see some parabolic moves. That stuff usually happens when you expect it. When you least expect it, when people are all at the point, like I used to say, oh man, we can't get past 20 cents. We can't get past 40 cents. We can't get past 50 cents. I mean, that went on for a few years. You never see a nice move. And then all of a sudden, that bad boy took off like some little fire on that thing. So that began like a super cycle. This is what we're expecting to see happen. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Anyway. If you don't have a cold storage wallet, I suggest you buy. It's called a Tangent wallet. Tangent cold storage, not hot. Hot storage, you're still connected to the internet. Cold storage, you know what? You're offline. You're good. Can't nobody hack into you over there. And I bet crypto sitting in cold storage for at least 7 years, man. It's been a long time. I mean, what I'm supposed to do with it? You're supposed to hold it. I can't. I'm not walking out the house. Well, yeah, I do. This is in my wallet, but this wallet accesses, the blockchain. But I'm not walking around with it in my pocket or nothing like that. You know what I'm saying? But I do have it in myself. I do custody it. Through my password that gets me into, the ecosystem where it's at. It's phenomenon. It is. To me, it is anyway. You know what I'm saying? It's the new financial, vehicle, it's money that has changed. The money that you and I knew before, not only that has it changed, it's lost value. I want something that has value. This has value, and it increases in value, and it's probably going to go even higher in value, in the next 30 days or so. So I'm keeping an eye on it. I try not to watch too much, but with everything that's happening, you peek in at it every once in a while. You want to stay informed. So y'all come back and check me out in the next video. I try to keep you informed on everything as I find out this information, and I share it with you. I don't charge for it. If I can help you guys, you know what I'm saying? I don't know what your situation is financially. You might need to put a roof over your head. You might need to be, able to feed family and stuff, like, maybe, you know, relocate somewhere where you're in a safer place. Right? You might be somewhere where there's a lot of unrest and stuff, and you just don't want to live there, but you can't afford it. But if you had some other means of making some money, maybe you have a job, but you just don't have the job, don't pay the move. So if you look into stuff that I'm talking about, I'm saying this might be some opportunities for you. I'm not a financial advisor. Like, I'm not telling you go buy this or buy that or go. I would just basically let you know that there's an alternative route, because it's tough to save up these days, man. It's tough. But once they start printing money, everybody get their hands on something, man. Just have a plan for that money, man. All right, so I'm gonna go. I've been up here about an hour now, and I appreciate you for watching. Come back and check me in the next video. It's your Swizzy, Commercial Truck Chronicles. It was a blessing to be here with you today. Like, subscribe, share the video, leave a comment. Come on back, check me out. I'll be live again this evening. Start doing a little bit more of that, and we'll see you there. All right, peace out. Have a blessed day. Y'all be safe out here.